I want to call this Special Rules Committee meeting to order. Invocation, Melvina, would you give that, please?
Eroda galandi he si han ojiluk. Niuna det dostan heldi do hest. Ni de tahti danto ni de jatnum voice dest. Negad ost watli lohi jundata he lord gehest ani warning. Father, we just thank you bring us together again. Lord, you're our leader and you control the hearts and the mind. Lord, you know things in the future. Lord, we just trust in your name that you would guide us in the right way. Lord, I just ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, Shelley.
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Joe Deere.
Ani.
Keith Austin. Here. Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates. Sean Crittenden. Here. Mike Dobbins. Here. Rex Jordan. Here. Johnny Kidwell. Here. Daryl Legg. Here. Wes Snowfire. Here. Dora Petskowski. Here. Joshua Sam. Here. Melvina Shotpouch.
Ani.
E.O. Smith. Here. Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
All right. Under new business, number one, would you take that, Victoria?
Yes. This is a resolution endorsing an intergovernmental detention agreement between Cherokee Nation and Limestone County, Texas. Move for its approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we vote, I'm going to open it up for discussion, but before we do that, I am going to ask our Attorney General to give a brief overview of this.
Thank you, Speaker. First, I just wanted to sort of address the problem that we're trying to address with this resolution, the issue that we have. And the problem that we've been dealing with is detention. Of course, you can't have a justice system that you don't have a plan for detention. And we've noticed, and especially in recent weeks, particularly since the decision in Castro Huerta, many of the beds that we had been relying on in the county jails, fewer and fewer of them are available for tribal use. But even prior to that, there had been issues with increasing demand for the bed space that we had and really sort of reaching this critical mass where the number of inmates that we had at different times would get close to exceeding the number of beds that we had available. So the Marshal and I began working, months ago together to try to identify some options that would help us resolve this problem. And we've identified a potential solution, and that's what I'm here to speak with all of you today about. The proposed solution is a intergovernmental agreement with a facility in Limestone County, Texas that's operated by LaSalle Corrections. This facility is about 6.5 hours from Tahlequah. It's about 40 miles east of Waco, Texas. And the intergovernmental agreement would have an initial term of 2 years with the option for 3 two-year renewals on the same cost basis. So we would be able to have 2 years at the cost we've negotiated, and then the ability to extend that for several 2-year terms thereafter. The cost of detention is about $5.3 million per year, which is $97 per inmate per day for 150 beds. So just to give you, that's sort of the basics. That's the problem that we have. That's the proposed solution that we're putting forward today and asking for your support for. I want to just go through briefly some supporting information that will help you understand how the Marshal and I came to the decision that this was the best recommendation. This facility is subject to both unannounced and scheduled inspections by the Cherokee Nation Marshal Service to ensure that inmates are held in conditions that are safe and consistent with our values and our expectations. So not only has the Marshal Service already visited this facility and examined it to make sure that it would meet our needs, but also they have the ability to continue to do both unannounced and announced inspections in the future. Secondly, county jails will remain important frontline detention facilities for the nation. So this does not mean we're going to Texas and not using the county jails anymore. This is using this facility in addition to the county jails. When arrests are made within our reservation, our network of jail contracts is important. So for most arrests, the only time that anyone will spend in jail is that period of time that they're in jail from when they were arrested to when they post bond. If it's a misdemeanor case or if it's a first offense, often that's all of the time that they would spend in jail. And so obviously county jails are perfect for that pre-trial detention. That arrangement will not change. That will continue to be how it is handled. Pre-trial detention is handled at the county jails. This contract would be for people who are being held post-conviction. Because we all know that for other more serious convictions, defendants are sometimes sentenced to longer terms because of McGirt. There are many serious cases that the nation is trying. We have a case coming up, in the near future that will be a murder trial, a case that the United States isn't going to bring, and we are going to bring. So there are cases where we expect significant sentences will be handed down. County jails are not the best place for people to spend extended sentences. County jails really aren't designed for that. Prisons in Oklahoma, typically you would be in a county jail, and then after your sentence was imposed, you'd go to the Department of Corrections. But we don't have access to the Department of Corrections in Oklahoma, so we have had to find other arrangements that are more suitable. The Marshal and I explored thoroughly all on-reservation and Oklahoma options for detention, but nothing is available. As you're all aware, tribal-state relations have been sort of in a crisis, been very difficult. Ever since Governor Stitt sort of unilaterally decided that the gaming compacts should go away. And then when the McGirt decision came down, that did not improve. In fact, it deteriorated further when the McGirt decision was handed down by the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's made it very difficult to work with Oklahoma on issues involving detention. So thankfully, we have this facility in Limestone, Texas that's been evaluated. Our inmates will be housed in their own dorm-style pod, which is separate from other inmates. So Cherokee Nation's inmates will be housed together and will be housed separately from the rest of the population. Their health care needs, both urgent and routine, can be met by the on-site medical staff. A bus will run weekly between Tahlequah and the Limestone County facility, and all of these things are included in the price that I've already quoted you. So medical care, transportation, that's included in that $97 per day. This contract will provide for 150 beds, but that can be expanded if our need grows. So although we're obligated to pay for at least 150 beds now, we can utilize additional beds if our need should increase in the future. And then finally, this facility can, I just think it's important for everyone to know, can, with the consent of the Marshal Service, allow prisoners to visit with their family members using web cameras. Inmates can also send messages to numbers that are approved by the Marshal Service, and those communications are monitored by the facility. So although it is several hours away, there are opportunities for people that still have contact with their family members. This agreement would only be used to transfer inmates who have been convicted and sentenced and not used for pre-trial detention. Inmates do have access at this facility to a law library, and it also has opportunities for them to meet with their attorneys either in person or over Skype or using other digital technology. Now, the only time they would need an attorney is if they have an appeal, right? Because these are people who have been convicted. Inmates will be brought back to the reservation at the conclusion of their sentences. So as the end of their sentence nears, they'll be transported back to Oklahoma, put back in the county jails, and released from the county jail. So no Cherokees will be, dumped in Texas and left there. They'll be brought back to the reservation and then released. And then finally, this facility can be used to house any inmates that the nation may prosecute, whether they're Cherokee citizens, other Indians, or non-Indians who are prosecuted under VAWA. So that's the big picture, the need that we have, why we're bringing this to you now, why it's important for us to get this done. There is a time-critical element to all of this, and why we feel like, on balance, it's not only the best option that we have, but really the only option that we have. And if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them or to defer them to Marshal Buell, who's also here.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing more about the agreement in place. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, or otherwise wasn't sent that information or given that opportunity. I noticed that you said that there's going to be a law library. In that law library, are we guaranteeing our citizens, since they're tribal citizens, a tribal law library? I don't know if every library and detention facilities have books that are specific with tribal law and all of our tribal laws that we currently have in our codes within Cherokee Nation.
Well, I'd be happy to donate a set of our books to their library if they're missing that. And just to be clear, there's no agreement signed. If the agreement is signed, these are the details of how it would look.
Okay, so it's preemptive on this endorsement. Will you bring that agreement back to us to then affirm, or is this just affirming basically your, whatever you agree to?
It's just endorsing the agreement that I have laid out in front of you, endorsing this agreement. There's no, legal endorsement necessary, but wanting the tribal council to both understand and appreciate what it is we're doing and getting the endorsement of the tribal council before we move forward is something that I think that the administration felt was important.
Okay, so, for instance, when we have other agreements that come forward that have to waive tribal sovereign immunity, they'll come to us after an agreement has been met. Sometimes they come to us before, and we give a pre-approval. Is this a pre-approval to an agreement such as that?
This has nothing to do with, waivers of sovereign immunity must be done by the tribal council, but this isn't requesting a waiver. So waivers would have to come back before the tribal council.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Chair.
Councilman Deere.
Hey, sir, how are you? Hey, how many do we have ready to go through that after the agreement's ready to go now? Is there a number for that already or not?
73. There is a
Okay.
number. Luckily, these guys back here know what it is.
Well, I'm glad the marshal and his team went out and did this and looked at the facility before they go. This is going to be a good thing, because since the state won't work with us and we don't have access, sort of relating to the juvenile beds as well, the way they're treating the tribes. So at least we can maintain and hold and grasp and deal with our citizens and how they're going to be treated versus state facility, because we don't know what's going to happen to those state facilities with our citizens. But yeah, thanks for checking that out. I know it's like the 8th one you've looked at, and finally we've got that done. So I think it's a good deal. I did do some research on there that looks like they're, as far as getting help and services during this, their facility does have good services, especially if children can't be there to see their parents. They actually have a televideo to be able to maintain those relationships and the cognitive therapies that they need. And I'm definitely an advocate of children dealing with incarcerated parents. But I think it's a good thing that we go forward with this. And I just want to thank Marshall and them for going out and looking at and finding a legit facility for our citizens, because McGirt has changed some things. So, but that's all I want to say, Sarah. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor.
Councilman Kidwell.
Thank you, Chair. A.J. Hill, thank you for being here today and taking time to explain all this. I just want to clarify one thing before we go. It says in the resolution that it has been negotiated already, a post. So help me out here. So you're just here to explain us what the requirements or what you have negotiated already. We haven't signed anything yet.
That's right.
So that's the purpose that we're going. I understand the need for a place to house our people, especially post McGirt. I appreciate you guys doing your due diligence and looking as far as you can in different locations. The next question that I have real quick would be for Marshall there. We talked about unannounced inspections, not to go on record with how those would be done, but have you, I suppose that you've already worked out a plan to kind of be able to get down there, whether it be once a month, once a quarter. Can you come, if you wouldn't mind, as we move forward and as this all gets finalized, if you'd kind of back channel, kind of let us know what those might be and how those might look, I would appreciate that.
So, Counselor, what we're looking at, like a two-prong approach to inspections. One would be just a general inspection that we do periodically. And then the second inspection that we would do is, let's say we get an inmate down there that's claiming something. Something's awry. So then we will send a team down there to look into that. Now, we have no criminal jurisdiction there, but we want to make sure there are citizens, there are people, even if they're non-tribal, generally they're Oklahoma citizens generally. We want to make sure that our people come back to us as good as possible. We're not sending people down there for the rest of their life. they're going to spend some time down there, and then they're going to come back to our community. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of while they're down there.
Yeah, copy that. All right, I appreciate that, Chair.
Councilman Dobbins.
A.G. Hill, I assume the other tribes are in a similar quandary. Are they looking at out-of-state detention centers as well, the other tribes?
I mean, I would assume that the Choctaws, for sure, they're so close, much closer than we are to this facility, that they would be interested in it too. But I haven't had specific conversations with them about that. I do know that all of the tribes have had struggles with detention, so I know this is a common problem that we have. I'm assuming they're looking at similar solutions, because I don't think any of them are having any more luck with Oklahoma than we are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, A.G. Thank you, Chair.
Councilman Callison.
Thank you all for being here today. If there is in the contract, say Marshall Buell does go down and they're not fulfilling their end of the contract, is there speculations that are we going to put different things on the agreement to where that if we have to get out of it, even though I wouldn't see that happening, but is there a penalty when they don't do those things they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, they're required to maintain the certain legal standards and physical standards of the building, and if they are not able to do that, then yes, we would be able to take action under our contract.
Councilman Teehee.
I just want to say thank you for the hard work that went into what we're looking at today. I understand that detention is not a pleasant thing to think about, especially when we're thinking about the incarceration of our own citizens. And the diligence taken in finding a facility that is going to meet our needs and is going to do the best possible job at setting our citizens up for reentry into our communities is vitally important. So I just want to say thank you to Marshall Buell, the Attorney General, and the staff of the Attorney General's office as well. Specifically also Chrissy Nemo for her work in putting all of this together. I really see this as an affirmation of our tribal sovereignty. I think that it's vitally important, and I just commend you all on the work that has led to what we see before us today. Thank you for the time, Chair.
Councilman No-Far.
Yeah, I had one more question. What does the schedule look like, a post-conviction rate? Like, are you talking about 60-day detention, 6-month detentions? Where are we starting at before we're sending them down there to Texas? Because I know we have some, working agreements with local county jails.
The priority will be people that have sentences of 6 months or longer. Those will be the priority. Those are the people that we've identified first for, I'm not going to say that we would never move someone that had less time than that, because if the situation at the county jails becomes so clogged up that there's simply no other options, we may be forced to send people that have, slightly shorter sentences there. But ideally, that's what all of us would prefer, is if they have 6 months or longer, that would be the basic time frame that we would use.
Okay. No, I appreciate you guys working on this. There's definitely a concern out there, and I know that it's just a resolution endorsing what you guys have already done. I wish I had a little bit more, I guess, in front of me of what it was, or a little bit more time frame to know, okay, this is what we're going to negotiate on before giving that full endorsement. So that way I knew exactly what it is, but I know we need to get there, and, if it's coming before the council to get that appreciation of working for it, I mean, you have my appreciation for working at it, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Austin.
I've expressed some of my concerns initially that when I was exploring this, and I've gotten very comfortable that this is the very best option that's available. One of my first things was, the distance. And then I start realizing, but wait a minute, this is closer than many places in Oklahoma are from us. We could have had a facility in far western Oklahoma that would have been just as far. And this is far closer than that. I also realize that we have a contract with this facility that gives us much more control, I believe, than we would have ever had with an Oklahoma facility, because an Oklahoma facility would be controlled by the state of Oklahoma's laws, and we aren't having much success with dealing with Oklahoma and their laws right now. So we are dealing with an organization that's not controlled by our state government right now. I think that's better for us than something that was controlled by our state government right now. We saw what happened in Catoosa at our tag office. They decide real quickly they don't want us, and they cancel the contract for something. We're very vulnerable when we're dealing with the state of Oklahoma right now. So I think it's better that we are dealing out of state than we're dealing in state for this particular thing at this particular moment. I also just want to publicly state that there are people putting out misinformation regarding this that are putting out absolutely dangerous and false information. And if they actually read this, everything they're putting out there would have been answered simply by listening today. But the misinformation is absolutely dangerous, what's being put out there over this. And it was unnecessary, and it was irresponsible.
Just wanted to clarify one thing, Counselor, if I may. The agreement has been negotiated at all of the details that I provided all of you, but it has not been executed. So it's still, we are awaiting the endorsement of the council before it is executed. But I just wanted to clarify that point with you and make sure that that was clear.
Councilman Kidwell.
Hey, Jug, one last question. You mentioned earlier about how much money per head per day the negotiations are going to be. What was that number again?
It's $97.50 per inmate per day with a guarantee, so we are agreeing to fund 150 beds.
Wow, that's pretty good, because typically, Marshall, if I'm not mistaken, in and around state is around $55 a day, give or
Most of our
take?
state contracts are around 56. Tulsa County is in the high 70s. That's why we don't have a contract with Tulsa County, because they don't do transportation, they don't do the medical. What we're getting from this organization is, in my opinion, the best deal that we've found as far as what we're getting for the amount of money per day.
At almost $100 a head per day. Let's hope that we're going to get that. And I'll be looking forward to seeing all that happen. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, I'll just add real quick. There's a myriad of things that go into housing people, and especially our problems. You get into the deal that we have with this place, and they're actually responsible for if any accidents happen there, that's a major deal. If they need to go to the doctor, they have an in-house doctor. Otherwise, our marshals go to these different places, and we have to pick them up and take them places. So this is going to free us up manpower. So when you start talking about county jails, a lot of these county jails in Oklahoma are either old, or when they were built, they weren't built big enough. They're already at max capacity. So oftentimes, a county jail will go to felony status only. That means if you have a DUI, whatever, assault and battery, that's not a felony, they will not take those people because they're on felony status only. So that really limits us on how we can, even though if they are guaranteeing us beds, they can't guarantee us very many because they're overcrowded. So that is the problem that we run into, and then you get a state government who will not lift their fingers to help us in this matter. We've had to take these matters under our own hands, and I applaud you for doing what you're doing. This place has a ton of pluses that you do not get out of a county jail. There is no way. You don't get those amenities that you're getting here. So, yes, it's a ways, but a county jail, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're sentenced to a county jail, you can serve 1 year max in a county jail unless something's happened. That's it for a county jail in Oklahoma. They don't give 2 or 3 year sentences for county jails in Oklahoma unless the law has changed in the last couple of years. 1 year max. So the time that we can actually keep people in a county jail is limited. So if we're not going to be at a state institution, which is a prison, this is, by gosh, the closest thing that you could get to it. and you have done a very fine job of finding a place that will guarantee us that many beds, which is unheard of, and give us those amenities of taking our people to the doctor where we won't have to, and setting it up a video where they can go back and forth on court and not being transported back and forth. Folks, that's a monster deal in today's world. It really is, going before a judge on closed-circuit TV. That's the way it is at most places. So I support you guys 100% on this deal because I know how difficult it is to find places for inmates.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, we do have a motion. We do have a second. All in favor of this resolution, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye. Resolution carries. Are there any announcements? No announcements. It says the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, September 29th at 1 p.m. I need one more motion. Motion second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.